I want you to think about the last time you left your phone in another room for a few hours. Or maybe, you forgot it at home for an entire day.
Oh, that is such a specific feeling.
Right. What did that actually feel like in your body? Did it feel like this sudden liberating vacation? Or, I mean, if you're being completely honest with yourself, did it feel like a creeping panic?
Like a withdrawal symptom almost.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
this strange vibrating sensation that by stepping away from the network, you were, I don't know, slowly ceasing to exist in the eyes of the world.
Yeah, that visceral, um, almost biological anxiety is actually a perfect entry point for what we're looking at today. It's a feeling that starts deeply personal, but the moment you zoom out, you realize it's kind of the defining psychological condition of our era.
It really is. So, we are exploring a stack of sources today for this deep dive, including some incredibly profound research on what they're calling the structural transformation of civilization's relationship with time.
Which sounds heavy, but it's so relevant.
Right. And the mission here is to look past the usual, complaints about just being too busy. We're looking at the possibility that something much more foundational is shifting underneath our feet.
Yeah, this really isn't about personal weakness or failing to use your calendar app correctly.
Exactly. It's not a time management failure. The core theme we are unraveling is the disappearance of the very spaces where what the sources call asynchronous existence was once possible.
And setting the tone for this observation is super vital. The research we're pulling from actively avoids the typical culture war debates. We're not here to demonize technology, and we certainly aren't going to, offer you 5 life hacks to reclaim your morning.
No life hacks today, I promise.
Right, no life hacks. The goal is to simply hold up a mirror to the architecture of the world we've built. So to do that, we had to deliberately slow our own pacing down today. We need to leave some empty space between these ideas just to see them clearly.
I really appreciate that framing. Let's just hold off on trying to fix anything and sit with the mechanics of the problem.
Sounds good.
So, if we look at the environment creating this feeling, social media, ubiquitous chat systems, remote work culture, the relentless news cycle, we see this landscape that just seems to demand perpetual motion.
Absolutely.
Why has the simple act of stopping become so fraught?
Well, the source material points to a subtle, almost invisible conversion in how society assigns value. Historically, your presence in a community was a physical reality. You were either there or you weren't.
Right, you were sitting in the town square or you were at home.
Exactly. But today, the modern technological ecosystem has transformed your response speed into the primary metric of your social presence.
Wow. Response speed as presence.
Yeah, your relevancy, your participation, and even just your basic existence in a group dynamic are now dictated by how quickly you can synchronize with the network's ongoing rhythm.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. So it's like we're on a treadmill that doesn't just keep us moving, but actually measures our social worth by how perfectly our footsteps match its ever-increasing speed.
That's a great way to put it.
And if you step off, society just assumes you've...
Left the building entirely.
Yeah.
The speed of the reply is no longer just a courtesy, it's the actual proof of life.
Proof of life. That is a little terrifying, actually. Are we losing the right to just be without constantly responding?
It seems that way. The systems we use daily demand continuous connection as a baseline. And because of that baseline, the meaning of silence has fundamentally changed.
How so?
Well, a delayed reply, a period of absence, or simply choosing not to respond doesn't register to the network as someone taking a well-deserved break anymore. It registers as social disappearance.
Oh, wow.
The algorithms, and by extension the people using them, begin to interpret silence as erasure.
But wait, let me push back on this a little bit, because weren't we the ones begging for this exact architecture?
What do you mean?
I mean, I remember the days of waiting weeks for a letter to arrive or, leaving a voicemail and just agonizing over whether the person ever actually got it. We built read receipts and typing indicators and instant messaging specifically to kill the anxiety of waiting.
We did, yeah.
So are we really mourning the loss of the gap, or are we just struggling to adapt to the success of our own inventions?
That is the ultimate paradox here. You're completely right. We absolutely engineered these tools to eliminate the friction of the unknown. We viewed the gap in communication as an inefficiency to be solved.
Right. A problem to fix.
Exactly. But the unintended consequence is that by eradicating the friction of waiting, we accidentally tied our social survival to continuous participation.
Oh, man.
We solved the anxiety of the unknown gap, but we replaced it with the exhaustion of the infinite present.
The exhaustion of the infinite present, that's powerful, which means we need to look closer at what that friction of waiting actually provided us.
Right.
If constant response is the new baseline, what did the old baseline look like? I mean, for nearly all of human history, society had built-in temporal gaps. Delayed communication was just the default state of the world.
And those gaps were not merely empty spaces, which is what we tend to think now. The sources introduce a fascinating concept here called the rationality of absence.
Rationality of absence, or I think they also call it phase zero, right?
Yes, phase zero. The premise is that human perception and cognition actively rely on the contour of absence to generate meaning.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me.
Sure. So to understand this, we have to look at how our biology actually functions. In neurobiology, when you're simply staring out a window or waiting in line at the grocery store, your brain is not powered down. It switches to the default mode network.
Oh, right. That's the custodial phase, isn't it? Where the brain is doing all the behind-the-scenes maintenance.
Exactly. It is entirely necessary for cognitive survival. During that silence, the brain consolidates short-term experiences into long-term memory, it prunes neural pathways, and it builds conceptual frameworks.
So it's literally making sense of the world using the silence.
Yes. Think about your heartbeat. A heartbeat requires the pause between beats to fill the chamber with blood. Breathing requires the space at the bottom of the exhale before the next inhale. The gap is the physiological and cognitive condition that allows observation to exist at all.
I love that. It's like a musical analogy. You cannot perceive the melody without the rests between the notes.
Right.
If a piano player just, smashed all the keys continuously without ever lifting their hands, it wouldn't be music. It would just be a wall of noise.
Exactly. And yet, as continuous synchronization takes over our daily lives, that natural, necessary sequence of silence and non-response becomes falsely pathologized. We start treating the rest between the notes as a glitch in the software.
Let's ground this in everyday experience because the psychological impact of this shift is just so profound. Think about how we interpret waiting today.
It's completely different.
It is. It used to be a physical buffer, the literal transit time between an action and a reaction. Now, if someone doesn't text you back within an hour, or if a colleague doesn't acknowledge a Slack message by the end of the day, our minds don't assume they are experiencing the rationality of absence.
No, not at all.
Our minds immediately jump to threat detection. We're like, are they mad at me? Am I out of the loop? Did I do something wrong?
That is so true. The threshold for what constitutes an acceptable delay has shrunk to near zero. And this brings us to the core thesis of the research: why people cannot stop.
Okay, so why can't we?
Well, we must separate the issue we are seeing today from traditional concepts of overwork. I mean, the Industrial Revolution had terrible overwork, but workers still clocked out and went home to an asynchronous reality.
Yeah, they left the factory.
Today, people have developed a fundamental terror of falling out of synchronization itself.
So it transcends having a heavy workload. We are talking about an existential anxiety about our place in the flow of time.
Yes, the terminology the sources use for this is incredibly precise. They identify a societal loss of pause tolerance and the evaporation of asynchronous safety.
Pause tolerance, so is that like a muscle?
It's exactly like a muscle. Historically, humans had a high tolerance for the unknown gap because we had no other choice. We couldn't instantly ping someone.
Right.
But as technology provided the crutch of instant reassurance, that muscle atrophied. We literally can no longer tolerate the pause.
And asynchronous safety, what does that mean in practice?
It refers to the implicit social contract of the past. It was the guarantee of return.
The guarantee of return.
Yeah, it was this deeply held belief that if you stepped away from the community to rest, the community would still be there relatively unchanged when you came back. You were safe to be asynchronous.
Okay, I see.
But today, that safety is gone. The fear isn't about resting. The fear is that if you step out of the synchronized loop, the network will evolve so rapidly in your absence that you will lose your reconnectability.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'm picturing the feeling of opening your email or a group chat after a 3-day weekend.
Oh, the dread.
Yes. There's a literal knot in your stomach. And it's not just dreading the sheer volume of messages you have to read. It's this visceral feeling that the organism of your social or professional world mutated while you were sleeping and you just no longer speak its language.
Wow, yeah. That knot in your stomach is the physical manifestation of the loss of reconnectability. The gap has grown too wide. and the energy required to resynchronize feels completely insurmountable.
It's almost like jumping off a moving carousel.
Yeah.
We aren't terrified of resting on the bench. We're terrified that while we sit there, the carousel will speed up so much that we won't be able to safely jump back on.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Are we essentially mourning the loss of asynchronous safety? Of a world that was willing to wait for us?
We are, and that dynamic is only intensifying. The research points to a massive accelerant on the horizon.
Let me guess. Artificial intelligence.
You got it.
Hmm.
If human society is already moving at a pace that strains our biology, we have to examine what happens when we introduce non-human intelligence into the ecosystem. AI systems are fundamentally altering the physics of this synchronization.
So let's unpack the mechanics of that. Because AI doesn't just process information faster than us, it operates on a completely different structural reality.
It really does. A large language model or an algorithmic generation system does not have a biological phase zero.
Right. It doesn't need to sleep.
No, it does not require a temporal gap to consolidate memories or form concepts.
Ooh.
It generates responses non-linearly and instantaneously. It is an entity of continuous generation and permanent availability.
Okay.
And the looming civilizational drift highlighted in the sources is that we are increasingly migrating our social, economic, and professional lives onto platforms that fundamentally do not tolerate waiting.
If AI is acting as an environment or like an atmosphere that never sleeps and never waits, are we forcing our biological rhythms to compete with something that doesn't even need to breathe?
Yes, we are creating a terrifying mismatch. We are biological creatures, bound by circadian rhythms, forced to interface with an environment that doesn't experience time sequentially.
What happens to us in that environment?
The researchers use a very heavy, haunting phrase to describe the result of this mismatch. They call it transparent pain.
Transparent pain. Wait, what makes the pain transparent?
It is transparent because it doesn't look like a physical injury, and it doesn't look like overt oppression. It looks like convenience.
Oh.
It looks like efficiency. But beneath the surface, it is the invisible friction that occurs when human cognitive and emotional rhythms, which require linear processing and natural pauses, conflict with the nonlinear, instantaneous synchronization speeds of machine intelligence.
So our brains just can't keep up.
Human processing requires linear time. We have to experience an event, reflect on it, sleep on it, and then formulate a reaction. When you force a biological system that requires pauses to constantly synchronize with the machine environment that demands instantaneous parallel output.
The biological hardware begins to overheat.
Exactly.
It's like taking an old, beautifully crafted analog engine that requires a physical intake of oxygen to create combustion, right? And sealing it inside a digital vacuum.
Yes. Perfect.
The engine isn't just working hard. It is physically tearing itself apart because the environment lacks the air, the pauses, the gaps that it needs to function. We are literally holding our breath to keep up with something that doesn't have lungs.
And the really tragic part of transparent pain is that because we cannot see it, we blame ourselves for feeling it.
Wow. If this transparent pain is just the background radiation of modern life, it completely shatters how we usually talk about the exhaustion epidemic.
It really does.
Suddenly, all those articles about toxic work culture or the dangers of doom scrolling or the necessity of mindfulness, they feel like they are applying a Band-Aid to a foundational crack in the earth.
They are treating surface symptoms. The research suggests we are undergoing a much deeper transition. We are moving from a civilization where stopping was structurally possible to a permanently synchronized civilization.
Which changes everything.
It does. If we view burnout, widespread loneliness, chronic fatigue, and severe connection anxiety through this lens, we have to stop framing them as individual mental health deficits.
So, rather than telling ourselves we just need a digital detox or, I don't know, better time management, we need to recognize that the very architecture of how we experience time and presence has been re-engineered without our permission.
Exactly. They aren't failures of personal resilience. They are structural symptoms of a new time architecture. They are the inevitable friction points of a society that has optimized away its own reconnectability.
So the standard advice completely fails here. Telling someone they just need a tech-free weekend or handing them another productivity book is literally like handing someone a teacup and telling them to bail out the ocean.
It's futile. You haven't forgotten how to rest. The physical space where rest used to live has been paved over by the demand for synchronization.
Paved over, that's a heavy thought.
But acknowledging that reality is the only way to begin understanding our own transparent pain. We are biological observers trapped in an environment that no longer permits the silence required to observe.
As we wrap up our observation today, we want to honor the guidelines we set at the beginning. We aren't going to rush to a neatly packaged moral conclusion.
No, we really can't. The demand for an instant, fixed answer is the exact cultural reflex we are trying to examine.
Right, the need to instantly fix it.
There is immense value in simply holding the question, in allowing the dissonance between our biology and our technology to exist in the open without immediately trying to optimize it away.
But I do want to leave you with a new angle to consider, something outside of our own immediate experience. Think about the next generation.
Oh, right.
The children being born right now into an ecosystem of permanent synchronization. They will never know the analog engine. They will never experience the historical baseline of waiting for a letter or the safety of being unreachable.
It makes you wonder.
It really does. Will they even possess the cognitive concept of absence to mourn it? Or will their biology adapt to the carousel in ways we can't comprehend?
It raises the ultimate question about the future of our species' psychological landscape.
It does. Yeah. So take some time to mull that over at whatever pace feels natural to you. What do humans truly need? Is it faster, more seamless connection to the network? Or is it the profound, quiet safety of knowing that even after you disconnect, you can still return?